wanted to get right. One was movement, and the other was texture and lighting. And so with movement, it's a matter of making those fights dynamic, but they need to have the mass and the weight and the stiffness of real robots. So just kind of really working on the nature of the movement, but then texturizing them, because these aren't transformers, they aren't from outer space, they're human built, human designed, human operated, and I wanted these robots to wear their fights on their steel, on their skin.
Now, listening to you talk like this, and you talk like an old hand with visual effects, which of course you are now, but this was not something that you had a lot of enthusiasm for.
Well, I had enthusiasm for the idea of doing a father-son sports movie, but what happened to me when they kept asking me to do Night at the Museum, and it happened to me when they came at me with Real Steel, is I am initially always daunted by visual effects, and I'm guessing that this room is filled with people who are not that daunted by visual effects. I mean, I have probably a healthy curiosity, but I don't really kind of crazily geek out on the how of it. I love the results of it, and as a director I love, and I've grown increasingly kind of addicted to telling big scope, big visual stories, and in this moment in time, the tools available to tell those big canvas tales are almost limitless, and they require a certain fluency in visual effects. And so with Night at the Museum, and really more profoundly with Real Steel, I took the movie on knowing that I would then immediately have to get and give myself a crash course in the paradigm with which our visual effects would operate. And so you're going to be hearing later today from Josh McLaglen and Eric Nash, who were my two key team members in Real Steel, because they were my tutors, they were my teachers, and there were many days where I'd sit in these meetings. The first couple weeks, I literally didn't understand the words being used. Like, people were talking about, I won't even throw the terms around because I now know what they meant, but I would kind of nod my head because the director was expected to look authoritative. But I would have no freaking clue. It was like they were talking another language. And I would go to my guys afterwards and I'm like, you need to teach me this shit. I don't understand anything. And that was 2 years ago. And over the course of those first few months, I was taught it and I learned it. Now, there's no going back.
Given how fast this stuff is changing, do you find you have to get a crash course with each new movie?
Yes, and I'm sure it's going to happen again and again.
So what do you have to learn for Real Steel?
I guess the biggest kind of umbrella topic that I'd not worked with before is motion capture. Because we knew going in that we wanted these fights to look dynamic and violent and legit. So we didn't want computer animation exclusively. In fact, we wanted almost no animation. And in Real Steel, the vast, vast majority is not computer animated, it's motion capture with animation tweaks overlaid. So I learned this motion capture pipeline where we had Sugar Ray Leonard was our consultant on the movie, and we hired an MMA fighter or a boxer for each robot character, so that every robot fighter would have a distinct personality. And we built a ring to the scale of the humans, and we choreographed and mocapped every punch, every move, and every fight. And so just kind of learning that was an interesting process.
Let's take sort of a big picture view of this. How do you feel like these tools are changing the craft of filmmaking?
I mean, here's kind of what you have to kind of picture. 6 months before we shot the movie, I'm there in a boxing ring with my team and Sugar Ray Leonard and these fighters. And I'm able to capture the fight. I'm able to direct every punch. So mocap as a tool for hands-on direction, rather than blind faith in an animator that you will never meet. That's a fundamental axiomatic shift. Additionally, once I mocap the fights, I shot the entire fight with a virtual camera. So you get to work out your movie without 200 people waiting and watching, without the burden of that clock ticking. So I pre-shot every shot in every fight, half a year before I shot the movie. So the days of just storyboarding are, I think, slowly on the wane. Because why have someone draw a static image that approximates what's in your head, when you can now take a virtual camera that's this big, and you can do any shot you can dream. You can do any shot you can imagine. And if you don't like it, delete. Try a different shot. Oh yeah, I like that one. Now let's try the next shot. So I literally got to find the movie by pre-shooting it on virtual camera.